Building kits in Tarkov that let you go into raid underweight has never been more difficult. At the start of the wipe, it felt like it was near impossible to go in and not be overweight. With 0 strength, the threshold for being overweight is now 21 kilograms. This ticks up a little bit as you level up, but it still isn't very much. Even at max strength, the threshold is only 27.3 kilograms. This has pushed most players into disregarding ever going into raid underweight, removing any of the benefits that come with it and making it near impossible to level endurance. And that's one of the biggest things about being underweight, is it's the only way you can level endurance. Once that little weight number in the bottom left goes yellow, you're leveling strength, not endurance. But on top of this, the lighter you are, the faster you run, the further you can run, and the less noise you make when you move. All of these are important when trying to engage players and just in general survive PvP. Now, getting that kit underweight isn't easy, but it is possible. Even at low levels where it is the most difficult, I've got a couple of ways to get you to that lower weight level. So I put this video together to walk through the different gear to help you make choices that fit what you're doing and your playstyle. And at the end, I'll put a few kits together that I ran that are underweight that allowed me to play the game pretty much how I normally do. Now, some of these weight savings might seem minuscule or unimportant on their own, and I can give you that. But that's not the point. It's the cumulative effect of all these little weight changes that are going to add up to a bigger number. They're going to get that number, that weight number, down into the white. On top of that, the more weight you save on your armor and your rig and some of the other stuff, the more weapon ammo you can carry, as well as the more options you have with attachments. So first up, we're going to talk armor and rigs, but armor's first. Now, your lightest armors at class 3 are going to be your Dr. Disrespect armor, which a lot of people don't realize this is class 3. I thought it was class 2 for a little while too, but it only weighs 4 kilograms. It offers you class 3 protection. After that, you have the press armor, the Zuck 3, also class 3, only 5.2. And the beauty of these is they're both pretty cheap. You can get the Dr. Disrespect armor for around 50 to 60K most days. It's even cheaper right now. It doesn't repair great. You might get 1 repair out of it, maybe 2, whereas the Zuck does repair great. You're going to get it back from most of your insurance, and its cost isn't too bad either. You know, you're talking 37, 40,000, so it's cheaper than the Dr. Disrespect, just a little bit heavier. Next up is the class 4 armors. Everybody knows about the famous Trooper armor. It's one of the best class 4s out there. It weighs 6.8 pounds, repairs great, and it's not too expensive. It kind of depends on the time of day because a lot of people snatch these up to use them for the slick trade. But if you're not being too picky about it, you can get them anywhere from 80 to 90, sometimes 100,000 rubles. Just keep in mind, you're not going to get them back in insurance a lot because people like to pick them up. After that, you have the 6B23. Now, this is a ceramic. You're not going to get but 1 repair out of it, if that even. Costs about 65,000 rubles most days. But again, it's also light. It only weighs 7.2 kilograms. Now, into the class 5s, there really is only one choice, and it's the Gazelle. And it's not light. It's 8.9 kilos, but it's lighter than some of the other class 5s out there. Now, a lot of people might say, hey, the Killa armor is super light, and it is. It's 7.5. It's class 5, probably one of the best armors in the game. Problem is you can't buy it. If you can get it, great, run it, but it's not easy to source. So I kind of wanted it off the side. I wanted to mention it, but that's it. Now, when it comes to class 6s, really all you got is the Slick. The only thing you can have access to via the barter with Ragman. Hex grids are great, and so are the others, the class 6 Zucks. The problem is you can't get any of those other than getting lucky and find them in raid, either on raiders or cultists or stashes or whatever. Now, the Slick itself isn't light either. It's 9.7. But we wanted to talk about class 6s, so here we are. All the other class 6s are big, heavy things that one of them weighs as much as 20 kilograms, and you're never going to be underweight if you wear that. But as important as it is with the armor that you're going to pick is also the rig. Because rigs can have a wide variant of weights and pockets and everything else. All right, so rigs, we'll just go from smallest to largest. At 16 slots, this is probably the lightest rig you're going to find at 0.62 kilos, is the Thunderbolt. Now, slots aren't bad. It gives you 16 slots, most of them 2 slotters. And this will fit most people's needs. Now, the crazy thing is we're almost going to double the weight. Like I said, we're 0.62 here on this Thunderbolt. The Umka is 1.2, so it's almost double the weight and the same amount of slots. The difference is the Umka actually has a, clicked on the wrong button, a 2x2. And so it gives you a little bit more versatility. Like if you like to run Grizzlies or some of the other stuff, maybe a drum mag, whatever you're doing, this is going to be an option for you. Just remember, you're twice the weight with it. Now, for 2 more slots, it's actually lighter than the Umka. You have the LBCR. Like I said, 18 slots at 1.36 kilos. Now, for just a little bit more weight, you can go to 18 slots with the LBT 1961A rig, but it's got a lot more versatility to it. It does weigh a little bit more. It's 1.36 kilos, but it gives you 2 2x2s, 4 2x1s, and then 2 1x1s. After this, we have the Azimuth in its many colors. There's a couple of different kinds here. It is 1.6 kilos and gives you 20 slots, and it's all just a bunch of 2x1s, but it gives you tons of space. So it's great for that extra room if you want it. Now, along with this at 20 slots is the Alpha rig, and that's the one I'm wearing right now. This is the rig I use the most. It says 2.7 because I got some stuff in there. Let me pull it out real quick. It is 1.7 kilos, 20 slots, offers you 3x1s, 2x1s, and 2x2s. I like this rig because I can run the 40 round mags like you can see here, as well as Grizzlies, which I usually run for my primary med. And it's actually lighter than the very popular Blackrock. Let me go show you that real quick. The Blackrock itself is 1.8, same amount of size, 20 slots. It's got one 2x2 in it, but it's 0.1 kilograms heavier. Now for our big ones, the last ones we'll show you is going to be the MPPV. This thing is 1.6 kilos, but gives you 24 slots. It's not as versatile though. It's got a ton of space in it, a bunch of 2x1s, and then 4 1x1s. And then the biggest rig that's actually in the game, 25 slots, is the Belt AB combo at 25. It's kind of heavy, 1.7, but it does give you tons of space. If I'm doing dedicated loot runs, I tend to run this rig just because it gives me the most room to put stuff in, but it is limited in the fact that it is mostly 1x1s with some 2x1s in there. But that wraps up the rigs and the armor. And next up, we're going to talk armored rigs, so kind of a combination of the two. And this is the benefit of this is you get that kind of combination, can make it a little bit lighter than running armor in a rig. If you're running armored rigs, it's just a little bit less weight. Now, when I'm really trying to push the weight of my kit down so I can carry more ammo or more expendables, consumables, things like that, I almost always go with the armored rig because you get that combination of the rig and the armor without the extra weight. Now, level 3, there's really only one choice. It's the Ulay armor. It gives you 7.1 kilos, combines both for you. Now, with the way everything else works, you're usually better off running a Dr. Disrespect armor or a press armor and then like a Thunderbolt or whatever, because you're going to be under the 7.1 and actually have more rig space. But the convenience of an armored rig is no doubt something worth looking at. Now, when it comes to class 4, these are my two favorite class 4 setups to run to be underweight. The Strandhog and the A&A M2 Tactical. Now, the Strandhog weighs 6.5 kilos. It is one of the lightest armors out there. It gives you decent space. If you look at the slots, 3x1s, 1x1s, and 2x2s. So I can run Grizzlies and stuff in this. And it's extraordinarily light and has very low hits to your movement speed, ergonomics, and turning speed and stuff like that. You can really move with this armor on. Now, it's aluminum, so it doesn't repair well. I usually was repairing it once and then selling it after that, but the barter's pretty cheap. And this is ideal for if you're sniping or you're doing other stuff where you just need something to be able to stop a shotgun round or pistol rounds or something that runs up on you versus being close quarters combat. Now, along with this is the M2 rig, and the advantage of the M2 rig is you actually get it off the flea market. They're kind of expensive right now at 100K, but I've seen them down as cheap as 80. So you can just straight buy it. You don't have to worry about barters or anything on your level. Once you're level 15, you can just buy it. It is also extraordinarily light. At 7 kilograms, it's just a little bit heavier than the Strandhog, but it is a better armor. It's Titan, which doesn't repair great, but still repairs okay. And it also has great stats, and it does have more room. It is 18 slots versus the 17 on the Strandhog, and it's all 2x1s. So when it comes to class 4, these are the two rigs that I'm using when I'm trying to stay underweight. Like I said, the Strandhog, if you want that extra half a pound for an extra grenade or some more ammo or a mag or whatever you're looking at. Now, when it comes to class 5 and 6, there really is only one option. You have the CPC for class 5, and this is, in my opinion, probably one of the best armors in the game. It's difficult to get to, though. The barter is only unlocked from Ragman. It's on level 4, obviously, but you have to do Long Line, which is a difficult task on interchange where you got to kill a bunch of PMCs in the mall, but you don't even get it till you're level 45. But the barter is great, and the armor is fantastic. It repairs well, it has tons of space. It's only 8.5 kilograms, which is lighter than the Gazelle. If you look here, the Gazelle's 8.9, and it doesn't even have the rig. It's also polyethylene, which means that it repairs really well. It's just all around a great armor. Then at class 6, it's new this wipe, you have the Tasmanian Tiger SK plate carrier. This thing is basically a bank robber that's class 6. Now, it's ceramic, so you might get 1 repair out of it, maybe 2, depending on your own thresholds with it, but the barter's not too expensive, and it is a class 6. And it is extraordinarily light. It's 7.5 kilos, though it kind of limits you on what you can carry in your rig. You're going to haul around when you're wearing this thing. You're going to be really quick. So once you get to the higher levels, and you can barter for this thing, it ends up being really useful for leveling endurance. Now, next up is backpacks. These are important to pay attention to because a lot of people just overlook them and grab a backpack, and some backpacks are really heavy. For example, an Attack 2. This is going to look really weird because I have a backpack inside of it. Let me move it real quick. 6.1 kilos just for the Attack 2 by itself. Extraordinarily heavy. I have not touched an Attack 2 to use in raid this wipe at all because of how heavy they are. Now, to save weight, I'm going to go through the backpacks from smallest to largest like we've done with some of the other stuff. Starting off with a day pack. This is way light. It's only 0.67 pounds. It's 20 slots, so it's the same as a Berkut or a Scav backpack, or even the medical bag. What's the medical bag? The pill box or something like that, which is really heavy too. The thing is, it's important though, is how light this is. You see this 0.672. If we go look at the Berkut, it is just a little bit heavier. And like I said, every little bit counts. So the Berkut's 0.96, so you're saving a little bit there. And then you look at the pillbox. The pillbox is 2.5. It's really heavy. So that was my go-to bag when I wanted something small, just enough to loot a little bit of loot or carry some extra gear. We had the LBT 800 5A day pack, the black Berkut, if you will. Now after that, you have the LBT 1476A. This bumps you up to 25 slots, but it is also 1.35 kilos. So you're only getting 5 more slots and you're more than doubling your weight, but it's still manageable. But in my opinion, before you're going to go to this, again, this is just 25 slots and you might not have it available yet, but the beta is only 1.3 and it gives you 30. And there's all sorts of other interesting things with the beta, but the most important part is it's really light and gives you all that extra space. Now, after this, you actually have some pretty interesting bags to talk about. We'll talk about the Paratus first. It's 1.56 kilos, gives you 35 slots. The problem is it has this really weird kind of slot layout in here. It kind of restricts what you can do, but it is more space. You're almost always going to get it back in insurance too, because people just don't loot these things. They find them, they're like, what am I going to do with this? So unless a player scav finds it, you're usually going to get it back. And then once you go bigger, at this point, you're kind of past worrying about weight. You've got the Blackjack. It weighs 3 kilograms when it's empty. This thing's super heavy because I got a bunch of stuff in it I don't feel like taking out. I can actually go look at the barter though, so you can see it. 3 kilograms, 42 slots. And then the raid bag, the really big one, it's 48 slots, but it's over 6 kilograms. So again, if you're wearing a raid bag, you're probably not worried about being underweight. So just keep that in mind. All right, now moving on to helmets. This is another one that a lot of people I think overlook and they don't realize how much weight they're putting on. Me personally, I love wearing U-locks. It's all I wear, but they are heavy at 1.9 kilos. So if you're trying to go underweight, you're usually not wearing a U-lock. Now, the lightest one that I ran the most of was actually the H-Gel. Now, this thing is only a class 3, but it is 0.8 kilograms, still has a high ricochet chance, and can stick some attachments like NVGs and stuff on there if you want. Now, the interesting thing is going to class 4, you're only going up a little bit of weight. You're 0.96 for a Bastion, which is class 4. Same kind of deal. But if you do put the slat plate on there, or not the slat plate, the armored plate, whatever you want to call it, the top mount plate, it's another 0.99 kilos. So you're getting real heavy. But when I was looking for savings weight, the Bastion was probably the most common because it's a lot cheaper than some of the other helmets you can wear out there. The Airframes, the Fast MTs, they're light as well, but they're really, really expensive and they're locked behind tasks. The Bastion you can just buy off the flea market. Same thing with TC800. Also class 4, you can buy it off the flea market. You can put face shields on it, but again, those are 1.2 kilos by themselves, and the Fast MT weighs 1.17. And the TC800 weighs 1.17, and again, you can just buy it right off the flea market. See, 60, 70, sometimes 80,000 depending on where you're at. Now, class 5 and 6, they aren't really worth mentioning. You can go look at them if you want, but the problem with them is that they are all super heavy. You know, if you're wearing class 5, the helmet by itself is 2.5 kilos, and that's before you put the face shield on it. Now, also on your head is headsets. The lightest one you can wear is technically the Razors. They are 0.43. I don't like how they sound. Personally, up to you. Me, I went with Excels most of the time. They were 0.49. They're really close to Contact 2s, which have always been my favorite headset. They fit under almost every helmet, and they're really light. They're also pretty cheap. You get them back from insurance quite a bit, and they're usually cheaper than all the other headsets, which is also nice bonuses. Now, I know a lot of people prefer the M32s. These are also really light at 0.49. You just buy them off Skier. They're pretty cheap as well. The two other ones, the Contact 4s are really popular, but now you're 0.6, so you're a little bit heavier, so keep that in mind. And Contact 2s at 0.7. So again, for me, I'm running Contacts and Excels a lot now because I have max strength and I have a lot more flexibility. But when I was trying to save weight, I was always wearing Excels. All right, so now we're gonna get into the nitty gritty. This is more of this just shaving little bits of weight off here and there so that you can get that extra bit of ammo or grenades and stuff before. And that's with meds. The absolute lightest complete med set you can run, at least in my opinion, what's a complete med set, is an IFAK, a Calic B, bandages, and an ALU splint. The combined weight here is 0.806 pounds. Now, if you go to a Salewa instead of an IFAK, you go to 0.906, and then an AFAK will be 1.106. So if that's what I'm saying, if you take the IFAK out and do Salewa or AFAK. So it's kind of in that order from lightest to heaviest. Now, this is the only place that I think the Grizzly falls down compared to other meds, because if you're running a Grizzly, you usually still need a hemostat as well to get those heavy bleeds stopped quickly, especially if you have several. The combination here is over 1.6, so you're quite a bit heavier than, you're double the weight of if you're just running an IFAK, along with all the other meds that you need to run with it. But I think more importantly to worry about is CMS versus Serve 12 if you're worried about weight. Now, this doesn't take into any account of any of the other argument about between a CMS or a Serve 12 other than the weight of them. CMS only weighs 0.4 kilograms, whereas the Serve 12 weighs 1.2, so it's 3 times as heavy. That's a lot of weight when we're starting to get down into the nitty gritty here. So I was never running Serve 12s when I was worried about weight, always running the CMS. And then after that is your pain pills. Golden Stars and ibuprofens both weigh 0.1 kilograms. Might not sound like much, but that is a little bit. That's extra bullets. So if you pick the Vaseline over the others, you're 1/10 the weight because it's only 0.01 kilograms. Now, the next couple of things I'm going to mention aren't necessarily because, you need to change what you're doing, but I just want you to be aware. Even secure containers have weight. And I got these written down here. I won't be able to show them all to you, but like the alpha is 0.8 kilograms. The beta is 1 kilogram. Epsilon is 1.5. Your gamma is 1.2. And the kappa is actually 2 kilograms. So you're actually heavier with these bigger secure containers. That weight matters. Maybe you're noticing you and your buddy have different weights and you get the exact same kit. This is going to be part of the reason why. Along with this is sick case and docs cases. Now, I don't want to empty these things out because it's a huge pain in the neck, but a sick case weighs 0.2 kilograms when it's empty, and a docs case is 0.7 when it's empty. And your keys are going to be 0.1 for every 10 keys you have, because they're all the same weight. They're all 0.01. And then money doesn't weigh much of anything. So it doesn't matter there. So you can have a little bit of a weight issue with sick case versus doc case, sick case being lighter, obviously. Now, on top of that, you got your injector case, which can get to be kind of heavy. I've got a bunch of stims in there. I'm almost 0.1. The case by itself is only 0.7, and if you only put 1 or 2 injectors in there, it's not that much. But again, when I was doing really lightweight runs, I usually didn't have an injector case because I wasn't worried about looting. I wasn't getting in super close end fights. I was mostly keeping a distance from people, running loot, just trying to level up endurance or get through a map quickly. But that's pretty much it for the kit side of things when it comes to gear. The next we're going to talk about is guns, and this is super complicated. I'm not going to get into a great level of detail here. I'm going to go over some basic top level stuff so you can make decisions yourself, because attachments, ammo, the number of mags, all of that stuff is going to change how much weight it is, and we just don't have time to go over every bit of it. Now, the 3 lightest guns setups that I could come up with, these are the absolute lightest, the lowest weight you could get from lightest to heaviest, is the UMP, the Vector, the 9mm Vector, and then the 45 Vector. The UMP with 4 mags and all the ammo in those 4 mags, not additional ammo, just the 4 mags, came out to just over 5 kilos, 5.1. Now, keep in mind, this was with a suppressor, a sight, a grip, a light, all of that stuff on there. So if you start pulling sights and suppressors off, it gets lighter. If you don't bring as many mags or you don't bring as much ammo, all of it gets lighter. Now, with the 9mm Vector, same kind of deal, pretty much fully built grip, light, suppressor, whole 9 yards, as well as 2 50-round mags and 2 33-round mags, full of ammo. Came out to 5.8, just over 5.8 kilos. And then the 45 Vector with 4 30-round mags, and then all the ammo was 5.9 kilos. So that you're starting to get on that heavier end now, and probably not being worthwhile because you can run some other guns. For example, the RD704, I think I have one down here. This thing's pretty much meta. It's built all the way out. I have a 50-round mag in it. It's 6.2 kilos. If you go down to a 30-rounder, you lose quite a weight. In fact, if you run this with just 30-rounders, let's say 4 30-rounders full of BP, you're only like 7 kilos. It's expensive, but the weight savings is there with your different attachments. And if you go loud, you're even lighter. And just to prove a point, even a fully meta M4 long barrel goofy kind of thing with a 60-round mag in it of 855A1 is only 5.19 kilos. It's just absurdly expensive. You can get these lighter, you can get them easier to use, especially with 30-rounders, stuff like that. So there are lots of options. You just need to look for yourself on what gun you want to run and what you have available to you to keep that weight down. And the big one is sights and suppressors. You know, if I just pull the suppressor off, we'll leave the muzzle brake on there, but we'll pull the suppressor off, it's a half a kilo. Mags can be really heavy, especially if you're going with 60 rounders versus 30 rounders. As you can see here, bare naked, the gun's 3.7. It's really light. And then scopes are going to add a ton of weight to stuff. I don't know if I have one right here handy to show you guys, but oh yeah, right here. So the scope is 0.82, the scope and the scope mount, you know, 0.25 and then 0.57 for those two. So those can add quite a bit of weight on your different weapons. And then grenades. Keep in mind that your F1s and your RGDs are substantially different in weight. The F1's almost twice as heavy. So if you're in that point where you're trying to fine tune and get weight, look at your grenades. M67s are light as well. They're just a little bit more expensive depending on what you have unlocked, but they are there. And don't forget to take your melee weapon off. If you're not running a Red Rebel to extract, there's no real reason to have a melee weapon in. Now, it doesn't take any weight off of me here because I have max strength. That's why I'm running it now, is because I do that. But, you know, this one's 1.3, and let's look at a Red Rebel. You know, a Red Rebel is 0.65, and your axe, if you just burn it around, it's an additional 1.8 kilos if you've just got that on your guy. So let me show you some of my kits real quick. It's going to be kind of hard because max strength, as you can see here, I'll pull a gun off. You'll see my strength doesn't change at all when I take a gun off, if I can find the slot to do so. Give me a sec here. You see my weight, my strength, or my weight doesn't change at all. I'm staying at 25. You can kind of see it right here just a little bit. It's because I have max strength. It doesn't count weapon slot weight. So I'll kind of have to show you how it works without the weapon, but how to get to under 21 kilos. It's not as hard as you think. Okay, so this was one of the base kits I ran, especially when I was sniping or doing things with bolt actions, trying to do, you know, Shooterborn in Heaven or Tarkov Shooter, some of those other tasks, or running big maps like Woods or Shoreline, because it allowed me to move across the map quickly. Now, right now with the kit with no gun, I've got my meds, I got grenades, I've got food even. I got my CMS, my sick case with a bunch of keys in it, my Vaseline. I'm just under 13 kilos. That means I have 8 kilos to play around with guns and ammo. So I can easily run several AKs and mags. I could run a bolt action and a pistol. You could even get away, if you're very careful about it, a bolt action and an SMG. In an even left room, you know, if I wanted to put an injector case in there, I've got enough for my Shemagh and Condors if you want to, though they don't have a huge effect. You can see there's just a little bit there. I could carry extra grenades. I could even switch my meds up and run different meds if I wanted to, like run a Grizzly. I have that extra bit of room. So while it is difficult and you have to pay attention to what you're doing, you can run underweight even with class 4. And I'll show you right here, switching to the M2 rig isn't even all that big of an effect. We'll just put all the stuff back on here. We're 14.3 kilos now. We have, in my opinion, a better armor, and we still have just over 6 pounds to play with in gear. Now, the interesting thing is if, you know, if you're getting ready to get into a fight or you're doing whatever, you can take your bag off, and I can't do it because I don't have enough room, of course. Here, we'll do it right there. You're down to 13 kilos because the food actually weighs something. And keep in mind, as you shoot ammo, you're going to get lighter. Now, if you want to run armor versus an armored rig or whatever's available to you, I've got an alpha here. Obviously, you can go lighter than that, but we're sitting at 15 kilos. So again, you've got about 6 pounds here to play around with. And as you level, that number is going to get, you know, you're going to go from 21 to 22 to 23, and you're going to slowly get more and more on where you're underweight. The only struggle is when you start getting into class 5s and some of the heavier helmets. So let's gear up to a little bit higher end gear. We'll throw on a Bastion. We'll take off the plate, but Bastion, a Gazelle, Alpha, your day pack, things like that. Now you're pushing 17. Now you're getting into where if you put in, you know, one of those 5 or 6 pounds, you have to be like level, I don't know, 15, 20 strength before you can do this. But that's pretty much it. That rounds out the video. I hope it's helpful. I hope this helps you get to where you can run your kits underweight and start leveling that endurance or just move around the map quicker. So we'll wrap the video up there. I thank you guys for watching. Make sure you drop a sub if you want to keep getting stuff like this from the channel. Like the video because it helps me out a ton. You know, the usual mumbo jumbo, like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. I wish you the best of luck in your raids, and we'll see you in Tarkov.